Well, welcome to the Pool Chasers podcast. I'm your host, Greg Villafana, joined by my co-host, Justin, the bearded plumber Bowie.
Thank you.
And today, we've got Israel Saari of Pentair. What's going on, Israel?
Hey, how you guys doing? Nice to meet you.
Very good.
Did he nail the name? Did he get it right?
Yeah, it's just like an apology. You said it perfectly.
Nice.
Well, it reminds me of one of my favorite skaters, Arto Saari. You ever heard of him from Finland?
I haven't, but the name is Finnish. It means island in Finn. And so, yeah, so a little bit of trivia there for you.
Very good. Very good. So why don't you introduce yourself to the listeners and what you do exactly with Pentair?
Yeah, so my name again is Israel Saari, and I've been with Pentair now about 4 years, and I lead the digital initiatives for Pentair's products. So I'm responsible for connecting our physical products to the cloud and then delivering a connected experience through our Pentair app, such as the Pentair Pool App and other products like remote monitoring. I've been in the industry now for about 18 years. So I started with BioLab and working on brands such as BioGuard and Clorox Pool. And so I've been in different roles in that part of the industry, from digital marketing to apps to communications and just traditional marketing. So I love working with small businesses in our industry. My family has several small business owners in it, and so it's a passion of mine, and I really enjoy working with our customers in this industry now for quite a long time.
So why don't you inform us and the listeners what we're going to be talking about today?
So the core of what we're going to be going through is some of our automation products, from the entry level to the more advanced, and then how those automation products allow you to then connect to the cloud and then get a connected experience that is really awesome for the homeowner, but also incredible for our professionals in the industry. So we'll talk a little bit about remote monitoring and some of the advantages to that and how it's going to help grow your business.
Nice. And, we hear a lot about, everyone's using automation these days in their homes and their landscape, all these different things. Pools are no different. How can that, transform the customer experience?
Absolutely. So automation all by itself is just incredible for both the homeowner and for the pro. It allows the homeowner to have a seamless and positive experience in managing their pool system, to make it much more hands-off, just through simple things like scheduling and some of the basics of automation, managing all those those products on the pad. And then for the homeowner, they want a connected experience, just like they do for everything in their home. I was talking to my Comcast support agent recently because I had exceeded the number of connected devices in my home that my router was capable of controlling. And so I think that's become probably more common than not, as more and more devices in our home, from our tea kettles to our ovens to our refrigerators, are connected. So it would only make sense that this advanced automation setup that we have, such as IntelliCenter, connects to the cloud to get the customer control from their phone. I mean, this is how we want to control things. So Pentair Pool App is how we do it. So our automation devices talk to the cloud and then talk to our phones, and allows us to turn the lights on, set up the spa, get it ready for the evening, or just adjust schedules. So that is, I think, the experience that homeowners have become to expect now, particularly on an investment like a pool. I mean, there's not many investments that are that large. Why wouldn't they want to have that control of that system and to be very hands-on with it, or just allow it to do everything on their behalf and to just let it control the pool as needed?
Nice. Well, let's jump right in. Why don't you tell us about some of the current Pentair automation products and what you have to offer?
Yeah, so I'll focus on a couple of different approaches here. If you've got a simple pool, and perhaps this is a pool that you currently just have a time clock on or something simple to that effect, and you just want to add simple automation, we can start with something as just the IntelliFlow 3 pump. This is a connected pump that can connect to our mobile apps like Pentair Pool. And at the same time, it comes with 2 onboard relays. So we've got a 5 and 15 amp relay that can control things such as colored lights, salt cell, can turn the heater on and off. And so just right out of the gate, automation can often start just with somebody who wants to replace a pool pump. And so now that's a good opportunity to have a conversation that, hey, automation is probably the next step, not just replacing the pump, but then adding some control that again, it's good for the pro and good for the homeowner. So the IntelliFlow 3 is a good start toward that. All the way
That's
up to then, yeah, go ahead.
let me ask you there. You said something interesting. So the two relays, so that's most commonly what you said, salt cells, lights. What else can you put on that?
Yeah, a heater, and just turning a heater on and off, just with as like a fireman switch. So we're just turning that heater on and off. But those are the most common elements that we recommend. Yeah, for as part of that.
What does that look like in the? I have an IntelliFlow 3 at my home, but I run it through IntelliCenter. What does that look like? Does it just show up as a relay in the app? Because if I remember right, you're in proximity to the pump. It's a Wi-Fi or a Bluetooth or both connection, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And
It can be connected via Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. So you can provision that through the Pentair Pro app via Bluetooth. And even as a pro, you can set that up so that you can get the scheduling and everything going as far as any controls. And then what the relays, whatever devices are connected to that relays, you can set that up as well. And then once you've got that set up in the Pro app, you can send a request over to the homeowner, who can then download the Pentair Pool app to then control that device on their own. It will show up as a device in their dashboard, essentially, so that they can then go ahead and control, of course, the pump itself, right? Speed and flow of that pump, but then any devices that are connected to it through those relays. And we have an HMI or a screen that is an option to plug into this as well on top, so that you can have onboard controls beyond just the buttons that are on there now.
And then as far as controllability on that heater, that let's say you had a heater hooked to it as a relay, you won't have control over temperatures at that point, right? It just becomes an on-off, and then you're using the display on the heater. Okay.
Correct. Just on.
Got it.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Okay. And then what else you got? Sorry.
And then, so yeah, no, it's a good question. And then all the way up to IntelliCenters, right? Our most advanced automation, where you've got the most sophistication in that automation system for whatever type of pool that you can throw at it. So multi-body, shared body, multiple pumps, heaters, valve control, 32 features, I think 40 auxiliary circuits, but everything, including connectivity again to online, so that you can control that automation through the Pentair Pool app. We recently migrated IntelliCenter from the IntelliCenter 2 app to the Pentair Pool app to consolidate our products into one application. And so it's a much more advanced experience, and we think the customers have been really happy with that move so far. So IntelliCenter is the top of the line in that sense. That's for the most sophisticated pools, but also for those kind of medium to high-end pools. We also offer an upgrade kit for customers that are familiar with our Easy Touch and IntelliTouch automation with Screen Logic. It's an easy swap out for that panel. So there is an upgrade kit available for that, to convert those older systems to a more modern experience through our applications today. And we even offer an IntelliCenter Lite, which is great for those redesigns where there's an existing breaker panel already at the pad.
And the IntelliCenter Lite, is that just something that goes in an existing can, or is that's a whole cabinet, right?
It's a whole cabinet.
Yeah.
Into the existing can would be the upgrade kit.
That's what it's called,
So,
just the upgrade kit?
yeah, the IntelliCenter upgrade kit. And so you'll replace that panel. And of course, that panel comes with the touch screen that IntelliCenter has on it as well. So whether it's IntelliCenter Lite, or IntelliCenter upgrade kit, you're getting the same capability there, and you're getting access to IntelliCenter remote monitoring, which we'll talk about. And then the customer's getting access to the Pentair Pool experience, the Pentair Pool app, which is, really positive for them to, again, control everything on that smartphone.
So what happened to the Easy Touch line? Is that just discontinued? And then are those the people who existing customers on the Easy Touch? They didn't migrate to the new app, right? They're on their old Screen Logic or whatever.
They're on the old Screen Logic app, correct?
Okay, got it. And that's why.
Yes, but we've discontinued the sales of Easy Touch and IntelliTouch, I believe, as of a couple months ago.
Okay, got it.
Is there automation for the heat pump? Sorry if you answered that already.
Yeah, so the heat pump does work with IntelliCenter as well, and so we have controls for that within the app.
So how does remote monitoring work?
Yeah, so probably the easiest way to talk about it is for me to maybe start by sharing my screen here. This is the Pentair Pool app. All of remote monitoring starts where a builder or servicer can get access to a customer system. So this is my pool today, for example, and I have control
90.
over
Nice.
simulated pool.
Okay,
This is
gotcha.
This is actually controlled by an IntelliCenter test unit on my cabinet here behind me. So yeah, this allows me to demo and kind of simulate the experience. So this is what our homeowners will see. But we also have the ability within the Pentair Pool App for dealers to get access, or servicers to get access using our manage users function. And so I can add myself as a servicer or a builder to get access to this system. So you can see here, there's different types of users that I can add. Now, when I do that, I then get access to a list of systems that are part of my remote network. And so in this case, I might have, 10 or more systems that I have access to. And that's great as a one-off. And that's not necessarily new in our industry. We've been able to do this for some time, dating back to Easy Touch and IntelliTouch. We've had the Screen Logic app that did something similar. So we're carrying on that access here through Pentair Pool, where you can see I've got access to about 10 different systems here, and I can click into them and view the dashboard. But where it gets really useful for the customer, I think we're doing this the first in our industry to really consolidate this to the cloud, is I'll go ahead and exit out of this and bring up our remote monitoring dashboard. So now, instead of accessing systems one at a time, imagine you've got a portfolio of different pools that you've either constructed or you service, or both, right? I've got customers that do both of this. They not only want to tap into systems individually to troubleshoot that, but remote monitoring is a dashboard similar to what we've done in the past, but this time we took it to the cloud. So rather than having it be software that you have to install, that Pentair, makes available as a download from their website, you have to install on each computer you want to use, we've created the pro.pentairpool.com website. And this website takes all of the pools that you have access to and then extrudes the data out of there that more than likely is going to be the most relevant data that you need to help manage your pools. And so it works a lot like a spreadsheet. It's got all the way here to the left is the pool connected. If it's green or gray, if it's green, it's connected. It's got the name of the system. So if I hover over those specific system name, I get information, address to where that pool is located. I can even connect to this system via the website and configure the system here remotely as well. So now I've got configuration access. This screen or this access is not new, but this dashboard is. And so we're linking the two so that if you do want to make changes to that system, you've got access to connect to it and leverage the existing site that we already had available as part of our IntelliCenter offering. And then if I scroll to the right, you can see things like card, personality card, and even the firmware associated with that. We're adding a firmware column here to make it easier to determine what firmware is associated with IntelliCenter. Of course, air temp, and then the body details. And all this is sortable. So if I want to sort by each column, I can. If I want to see who's potentially getting low on the water temp side of things, or if I want to see how their heaters are operating, red is, of course, firing. It'll tell me that set in heat mode, and then output of the chlorinator, if that's applicable, and then the second body details, there as well. All different information to present it in different ways, whether or not, if it's a heat pump and it's cooling, or if it's solar, it's green. And then if I go over here to our equipment side of things, probably our most popular feature is that alarm. You can configure alarms as part of the IntelliCenter setup. And so we're going to expose those alarms to let you know what's going. These are things that you want to be monitoring. What I've heard from our customers that help advise as we were setting this up is they have this as a TV on in their office up on the wall, where it's showing this so that they can keep an eye on things. They're sorting by alarms, and this is refreshing about every 15 minutes, or they can refresh it manually. And again, we have that connect to system option. So if there's an alarm that needs attention here, they can connect to that system and make adjustments to it. And then just probably our second most useful or requested feature was to say, hey, I would like to know what's going on with the pumps and the lights. What auxiliaries are connected and what lights are on or off. And then what are the pumps that are actively on, and then what are they actually doing from a performance perspective. I mean, you guys know this. You can learn a lot from the pump and what that pump is performing, whether or not we've got some blockages involved, maybe the filter basket or the pump basket's clogged, or maybe the filter needs to be backwashed, or, the heater's not firing because the flow is not effectively high enough to get that heater to fire and switch that heater on. So there's, again, online, offline of those pumps where applicable. And then if you've got IntelliChem or iChlor installed on the system, we've got the opportunity to expose the pH and the ORP and the chemistry here. So, so I've got customers that have, one or two of these systems online, and they just started to manage and monitor their systems through IntelliCenter. And I've got customers that have hundreds of systems because they either service or build those pools, and they're putting IntelliCenter automation on it.
Can you edit like body 1 details, body 2? Can you name that something else?
Not yet. I like that idea. So something that's more customizable to what that body is, whether it's pool or spa, for example.
Yeah, because we plumb pools at properties that have multiple, pools indoors, outdoors, casita, whatever it may be. It'd be cool to kind of just put in specific details of which body of water it is.
So, and what I would love it too, just to point out, that's why I have this link down here, talk to the product manager. So this is an email. This is an email right to me, right? It doesn't go to corporate. It doesn't go to a large support team and get shuffled around. It goes to me. And I love suggestions like that. So yeah, that's fantastic.
I don't have to hit it, right? I just submitted it to you.
Verbal submit.
Yeah. I won't make you submit on that one.
Very good.
Awesome.
And then there's some simple configuration here as well. We can customize to where it's just showing alarms, or if you want to customize how this is organized, right? Maybe you want to put the equipment first, and then you can apply that. So equipment will move over to be more in line with where you want it. And then again, I like your idea here. We could have probably even further customization, whether or not you're naming these differently or just organizing them differently. And then, probably one of the more popular features as well is just search. If you've got several hundred systems out here and you want to find the Sapphire pool, then there's the Sapphire pool, right? Just from a quick search. So as you begin to build that portfolio, that search becomes a little bit more relevant.
I think you kind of touched on this a little bit, but maybe we could boil it down, or if there's anything you want to add. I mean, this is great for a homeowner, but it also seems like a pool pro could benefit a lot from this. What are the things you would emphasize that maybe the pool pro would get the benefit from?
100%. In fact, we built it for the pro first. And so, yeah, if a homeowner has multiple properties, they can certainly use this, but the pro is our audience. And so there's benefits twofold on this. There's benefits for the builder and there's benefits for the servicer, recognizing though a lot of our customers do both. But from a builder, I want you to imagine the scenario where you've built the pool and you've handed over the keys and you've got them set up on Pentair Pool to manage that system. No doubt there's going to be tweaks that need to be done. This is your opportunity to keep an eye on the system and also tell the homeowner, look, I've got access to your system. I'm going to keep an eye on it for you, particularly in those first few weeks, few months, to make sure you're comfortable with everything and make sure I can tweak. Maybe it's tweaking a schedule, maybe it's tweaking flow, the heater settings, anything that needs to be adjusted generally can be adjusted remotely. So you're not having to drive out there and make those fixes. So we're reducing truck rolls on that. But just that peace of mind that now that somebody's watching over it after they've done and left the site, it doesn't mean that you have to be constantly fixated on it, but it's good for, I think, the builder and for the homeowner to have that trust that the pool's being looked after. Certainly, if there is an issue, fast issue resolution, because you're looking at it, if something's throwing an alarm, whether or not it's something like a drive temp or just low salt, that can be addressed. That can be planned for. That can be prioritized ahead of time. Imagine, telling the homeowner, we got an issue. Don't worry though, we're already out, or we've already sent a tech out to fix it. No sweat. Or maybe they didn't even know there was an issue because you guys got ahead of it. The builder got ahead of it. That huge fast issue resolution is worth its weight in gold. Then just long term, just that differentiating factor for the builder when you're selling your services to say, not only am I going to build you a fantastic pool and beautiful pool, but you're going to be on my VIP list of pools that I'm watching and just making sure things are going extremely well for you. But for the servicer, it goes without saying, if you're servicing these pools, there is just a no-brainer, proactive maintenance and issue prevention here. That's why they're paying you to take care of the pool. They want everything perfect. And so the moment something goes wrong, they're going to get a call. Better to be ahead of that and be proactive in that issue prevention. So again, looking at what the pumps are doing, is the heater achieving the heat, and not having to jump into each system individually, right? If you're servicing thousands of pools, some of our largest customers have huge portfolio of pools. to have this quick sort to what's going on, whether it's just looking at where ORP is, or how the pumps are performing, or what alarms have been thrown, that's what you want to get ahead of. So now we're reducing truck rolls again if we can solve it remotely. We're improving workforce efficiency, right? We got the right parts in the truck when we go out because we know ahead of time what the issue is, or we got the right tech that already knows how to address those issues, whether it's a heater specific issue or a pump specific issue, right? We're not making a trip out to assess only then to go back to the office and get the right part, so we can reduce trips there. I talked to one of our customers not too long ago that said he estimates with something like a remote monitoring for his service route, he can save hours a week, tens of hours a month by having access to this information versus waiting for the phone call, being reactive to that. And, all of this is an investment on the servicer and the builder side from learning this technology, but it's not complicated. In fact, Pentair offers a lot of support in this arena. We offer Pentair universities that are specifically gauged towards informing customers how to use remote monitoring, how to get access to pools. So we have a lot of support there to help guys on board with this technology. Because, hey, I get it. The tech it's a little bit scary at first. I think change is hard, and as the industry advances with tech, no pool service or builder wants to be an IT department. That's our job, is to make this simple and offer the support so that you guys just do what you do best.
Does it keep a history as well?
So it doesn't, but I will say that is a fantastic idea that, I won't make you talk to the product manager again, but it's actually one that we are working pretty aggressively towards. We think that you would benefit from history. I think I know where you're going on that. Like, why wouldn't you want to see the history of what that device, what that pump, what that heater's been doing,
right?
To give a little bit more context, right? This is real time, but absolutely history makes perfect sense. So I would say stay tuned because
Right.
we may see some advances in the future on that.
I'm
suggestion.
Curious, why would you want that?
Well, I've run into situations where a client will say, like, hey, my heater is not heating the pool. And then we go out to the site and you spend all this time, and what you find out is that every night they were turning on spillway, which deactivates the heater. So to see a history of, like, the heater was on and then it was off and then on.
Because they're pointing the finger at you. Or
Yeah, they're like, your
else.
heater's broken. And you're like, no, like, this shows not.
I have your fingerprints right here, buddy.
It snapped the picture when you open the panel. Yeah.
Or maybe just a history of what buttons were pressed on the app and what devices were turned on or off, right? I think that's a perfect scenario that I've heard several times. Customer says X, there's always another truth maybe to that story. Not always. Maybe sometimes the customer's right in that regard, but right, there's more context to that story that the customer may not be aware of, but you as the pro definitely would be.
One more suggestion. I know that we're coming up with a lot of suggestions here, but you know what else I think would be cool? You should be able to restore, like, you know how you can put your thumb drive in at the panel and pull your settings and then restore? It would be great if you could do it here. So if a client messes with something, you could restore it right from there. That doesn't exist, does it?
It doesn't on our software side. I have that in my backlog. Yes, I like that. Right. I like that suggestion. Now, not making any promises when that comes out. I got to be careful. I'll get in trouble there. But it is 100% right, because that convenience of that USB in and out, and to regain that configuration, almost like a reboot or a reset, where it's just everything that you've already invested your time in there. It can actually be stored on the OCP. So the outside control panel can store that as well. It doesn't have to be a USB. Right. You're right. It can be USB. And then, why wouldn't that be great? Or why wouldn't that be on the app as well, where you could then say, hold on a second, let me just start you over on this and make that so I don't have to come out there and press it on the panel. It's a great suggestion.
It's almost like a DSLR camera where there's a bunch of different presets that you could put on it. So if it gets out of whack, you could just go to configuration 1, 2, or 3, and it's for different situations. So it'd be the same thing where it's like, put this on, my original settings, and this one's for like party, mode or whatever.
Now we're getting advanced, Greg.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. So I'm going to have to put you guys on the product management team for Pentair. We're going to have to, we're going to have to, I'm going to have to call you up and we're going to have a brainstorming session here following this podcast. I'm really liking these ideas, but these are fantastic. I mean, you're industry professionals, and you are not the only conversation with an industry professional I've had this week, right? I've talked to several just in my day to day, and that's where we get our best ideas, 100%.
But all in all, it does sound like a really good opportunity for builders and pool service people to, get some more money, increase revenue. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Certainly from the service side, we've got several customers that have, tiered service. So imagine you've got the basic service and then you've got that VIP service. That might look different for every servicer, but I've got customer out of, I think, Dallas and Austin in Texas, and they have that tiered option where, and at the highest option, they're checking all of the equipment. They're making sure everything's firing correctly every week or every other week. So now imagine that same scenario here where you can go to the customer and say, look, for an additional fee, X dollars per month, X dollars per season, I'm going to keep an eye on your system specifically. So now you're on the magic wall. I'm going to get all the alarms and alerts, and I'm just going to basically watch your system in between. So there's varying levels of how you might configure that as part of your service. And, I'm not going to pretend to say what that arrangement looks best like, but I think we can all put our hats on for our respective industry or parts of where we are in the US, and then determine if that makes sense. But certainly you're offering something here that's a value add in addition to what pool service is. And same thing on the builder side. Builders might say, look, for the first year or for the first X number of months, I'm just going to keep an eye on things. I'm going to give you that blanket of kind of protection that everything is going to be okay. And you've got eyes on it at all times, throughout the day. And then we can talk about if the pool's not being serviced, later on by someone else, we can talk about how we might add an additional fee to watch over that pool into year 1, 2, and 3. And again, that's benefiting both the homeowner, of course, with that peace of mind, but benefiting, you as a builder, that you're reducing opportunities for, warranty issues, which is good in the long run. But, there's revenue opportunity here because it's a service in addition to what you would normally offer. So there is even some things like, for example, fee-based corrective services. A lot of home automation services will charge a fee to tap into the system for home automation and make, corrections to those really sophisticated systems, which I know you guys are aware of because you're building probably really high-end pools in some big houses. And so that's no different. Our industry should be looking at that as well. And then, finally, probably just fewer visits allow for more clients, increased referrals, reputation growth. All these things lead to, revenue positive activities in the long run.
I was going to say, you're going to save a lot of time probably in driving, because some of these issues you might drive, 20, 30 miles just to go check on something simple that you could check on here and get your answer, or answer the customer faster.
100%. Yeah. Think about gas and time and wear and tear on that vehicle. Yeah. You can manage that and make that configuration change in advance. A lot of the times you will drive out there only to find that you just had to press the button or adjust the pump speed, and that was it. Right. So yeah, huge cost savings.
Gas for my G-Wagon's not cheap. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like we've had people on the show talk about adding subscription services to your business. I mean, it would be kind of like, to elaborate on what you said, Israel, is, you could charge somebody a subscription fee every month. And it's like anything I can resolve remotely is included in this X a month. I mean, that's what our IT guy does, and on sites or more. I think you're knocking 2 birds with 1 stone.
Makes sense. Just as valuable. Yeah,
totally.
Sure.
I dig it.
Yeah, I love that idea.
So when people hear this and they decide they want to get this integrated into their business, what does that look like? What are the steps to get this going if you got a builder or a service guy who wants to get on board?
Yeah, I always say it starts with a leadership commitment. So, whether it's the owner or the service manager, they've got to prioritize it as part of the process. And then they can speak with us, right? So whether or not it's a Pentair rep, or if they're already a Pentair customer, or we have dealer education at the Pentair Pool Universities. Even if you're not a Pentair customer, these are fantastic opportunities where we have our professionals then educating the industry on how they can get started with this. The ultimately training your staff to follow the process, which for the most part, as I describe it to the owners, is you set up an email account for your business. Maybe it's service@pooldealer.com. And you are going to use that email address as the access for getting access to the systems through our manage users function, so that the homeowner is inviting that specific email. Once you do that, you're well underway, because as you build out that complement of systems that are part of the Pentair Pool App, that remote network access systems, this dashboard is being built out automatically. So there's no import, there's no setup. It just adds systems as you add systems within Pentair Pool. And so there's no setup required. Now, the login for that is pro.pentairpool.com, as you can see on my screen. If I have my email address here as part of the login screen, I can then click sign in, and then the dashboard will display here. And then if you're not familiar with remote monitoring, but you are using Pentair automation with IntelliCenter, we have a get started link here at the bottom, and that get started link will then give you kind of detailed step by step on how to get access after getting permissions from the homeowner, all the way down to accessing the user management that we talked about, and then how to send yourself an invitation and ultimately log in so that you get access to this dashboard. So very straightforward, and we're improving this process all the time. We've got some enhancements configured for the future here as we roll into the season to make it easier, so it's more of a one-touch acceptance. Our customers have said, look, this is great, but we want it to be easier. And so we're working on those solutions right now.
What is it loading right now? It says 18 of 20 loaded.
Oh, it's
those
the refresh, I think.
Yep. So it's loading those systems on the side here. Of the 20 systems that I have, it will refresh those every 15 minutes.
What does it look like when you open up the pool name? Can you open those up? Is there more?
Yep. I'll go ahead and connect to one of these here.
Like, can you put a picture of the pool in there?
Oh, I see. As far as no. So within the customer details, there's not an opportunity for a picture. Is that what you were suggesting?
I was asking. So I'm not trying to.
Another suggestion.
Yeah, I
Israel.
like it. I like it. Good. Keep going. No, we don't have opportunity for a photo here, but I can see how that would be useful, or even some notes, something to that effect about that particular pool.
Yeah, I think, everybody listening would love an opportunity to put pictures in there, even pictures of that exact pump or salt cell or whatever it is, because, you're going to maybe change things over time, but you could just kind of have a history log of all that stuff.
Yeah. And so would that also help you understand more about that system as you're engaging with it, or at least you get an idea of what parts you might need to address something?
Yeah, definitely. And I think in the future, maybe you guys have already thought of this, but it could integrate with a warranty. Maybe it'd be easier for pros and homeowners to communicate with you guys, and it's like, put it on here, you're going to do it anyway. And yeah,
I just feel like Greg wants to fly his drone more, and he needs to take more drone photos of pools, and that's where we're going.
Yeah, that's you caught me, dude.
I like it. I like flying my drone. I get it. Yeah, and another thing to further differentiate your business, right? You're offering a service and a tool that, again, is first in the industry, that has a consolidated view of all of this automation in one. So now think of that again from service perspective. You're reducing those emergency calls. From a builder perspective, you're talking to the customer and you're telling them what differentiates you from your competitors, right? By offering IntelliCenter automation and this dashboard being available, both the homeowner and you benefit. So total differentiation for their business here. And this is the kind of, I think, the technology that homeowners expect from the most advanced pros in our industry. The anticipation that you're going to be up on the technology just like they are with other things in their house, that's probably a good assumption. And talk about increasing your loyalty as well. If they know that you're on the bleeding edge of this, and you're going to create a great experience with that, again, huge investment on their property, I think they're going to be all over it. It's a huge differentiator.
How do you see pros kind of marketing this type of thing? Just curious.
Yeah, I would leave as part of that sales process, right? Again, in the beginning, when you're talking to the customer, this should be as part of the sales play that you're talking to them about. So, of course, what are the things that are already differentiate your business? But on top of that, let me show you the additional value that this comes with. I would even have a screenshot of this dashboard to give them some sort of confidence that, look, this exists and we have it. You can even pull it up on their phone and say, these are the systems right now that I can tap into and I can resolve. So I think demos go a long way to showing an increase in confidence that you've got something that's unique and marketable. I think gravitate towards that, particularly again, is if you're showing that that you're adopting that new tech, that's huge. That's a huge part of the sales process, whether or not it's a service play or it's a build.
And I don't think there's as much convincing as there used to be because we're so far along in how everybody uses automation. I mean, in my apartment, like how I unlock my door, I can do it like as soon as I pull up, unlock it. It's like second nature to me. Turn lights on over here, I'm scared at night, turn my night light on. Like you could do that from an app, but I feel like a lot more people are like that. It's like self-checkout. When that first came out, people were like screw this, like nobody's gonna use this.
Yeah.
Now, I don't even want to see anybody. I'm just like boom, boom, let's go.
There you go. See, I think you're onto something here. It's that new technology to further isolate ourselves from one another, which is ultimately what we're going after. No, you're right. No, at the end of the day, right, we don't want to pick up the phone and do the support call. We don't want to send an email to the support team. For the builder or servicer to say, I got this, right? Or if you send them a text even or contact them and say something's going on, I'm already on it. I'm already seeing it. I don't need to drive out. I don't need to schedule an appointment. I don't need to align calendars on, when we can be available. That's what all of these connected devices are ultimately driving us toward, is getting rid of the stuff that we don't want to deal with day to day, the mundane, the maintenance, the schedules. We want things to run seamlessly without our intervention. Let someone else deal with the problems if they exist, whether or not it's my HVAC or my pool or my home automation. And just then I want to go off and do things like I want to do. I want to enjoy my pool.
Is there like limited access you can give? I think I've maybe heard you talk about like if you're giving access to people for a few days or whatever. Is there something like that?
Yeah, there is. So with the manage user function, we also have the ability to set permission-based access. So you could set access to only just to turn the lights on, or maybe just to turn the spa heater on. So yeah, there is that customization, which is extremely useful for those rental properties, or for customers that have families where they don't want the kids necessarily having the same access that they do to administer that pool.
So if pros are interested in remote monitoring, what should they do next?
Yeah. So again, pro.pentairpool.com is where you start today. If you're currently working with IntelliCenter Automation, that's the link where you want to get started. It's going to give you the basics on how to get started and get through the process of activating access to those systems and then getting access to the dashboard, which is the same login as your Pentair Pool account that has access to these pools. And then if you're not already working with IntelliCenter Automation, certainly our Pentair representatives will be happy to talk to you about that and get you set up if you've got questions about that, or our tech services team. And then again, take advantage of our training through Pentair universities, where we'd love to talk to you about how to get remote monitoring set up as part of what you offer as part of your business.
Easy. I like it. I have a question for you. We've talked a lot about everything being connected through your phone. And I don't know if you've heard, the new thing will be glasses, we'll be controlling everything. There will be no more phones. Do you have a sense, like, are you thinking about that? Have you thought about what that looks like for Pentair? Like anything on the forefront on that?
Shit's getting real.
It's getting weird.
Yes. So I have a thought on this personally, but I think it also aligns with where we're thinking in Pentair as well. My take on it is that we had the opportunity to download apps. Remember when we were all like, oh, what app did you get? Did you see this app? This is a great app, right? So the app was a novelty for a period of time. And then everybody's got an app. And so suddenly it was like, all right, it's not that cool. And so we stopped showing each other our apps because it was no longer that exciting that you could have the Koi Pond app and you could tap the screen. That novelty started to wear off. My opinion is where I am today is it's become, oh, check out what I can do with my phone, to I got to take out my phone out of my pocket. And now I got to unlock it and I got to have the face lock, right? So the face lock's now I got to open the app and I got to wait for the app to load, and I may have to log in. Hopefully I don't have to log in. Now I've got to then select, whatever it is that I want to do. Now, how far we've come, right? To where we used to have to walk outside to then engage with the product. Now I get it all, but now already that's become just kind of like, oh, I got to drag it out of my pocket and do all this stuff. So I would agree that we're going to get to a point where voice activation, voice navigation is even more commonplace, but rather it's not always convenient. I do think, though, that more and more customers want integration with home automation. So 100% that needs to be considered as we move forward in the industry as a whole, because more and more the apps become something that if we need to engage with, we will, but ultimately we just don't even want to open it. So we want a pool automation that's going to anticipate what we want. We all know AI is here and coming and getting more and more relevant to our industry. So, that's a separate conversation for another day, but that is one that makes very much sense in our industry to how is that pool being used? What needs to be addressed? And then how can we use the data to adjust it proactively so that the pro doesn't even need to look at this dashboard. They simply get an alert, they act on that alert, and then perhaps that system is already fixing it automatically based on whatever settings have been anticipated. So I think you're thinking way ahead, and absolutely. We're going to engage with these products in a different way.
I have a vision of what it's going to be like. And you didn't ask me, but I'm going to tell you. This is where I think we end up. Yeah. I think eventually we're going to have on a pair of glasses, and I think it's going to be like hovering your cursor. I think we're going to walk up to your pool panel, and it's going to sense you there, and it's going to give you a menu, and you're going to walk to your oven. It's going to pull up. Like, I think it's going to be a proximity based
100%.
Because I own a Quest 3, and it's already like you can have your desktop up. I think that's where we're headed.
I agree. Have you used the glasses yet?
I haven't used the glasses, but I have had the VR headset. So
dude, the glasses. So Justin's been hip to it for a while, and I just got a pair, and man, it's seriously, it's next level. I can't even imagine where things are going to be at in a couple of years, because it's hands free. I think that's what we've all wanted, but you're able to just kind of like,
you look weird doing it and interacting with your environment, but
like this guy's a threat. Kung fu video, But we always have our something in our hands, so it's nice to be hands free.
So I have a slide and a PowerPoint deck that I actually presented this week that shows a pool professional standing in front of a pool, and they've got like a glass transparent display hovering in front of them. Why wouldn't it be, right? So now the glasses are the interface, and then hand gestures are now engaging with that, whether or not it's, adjusting pump speed or adjusting schedule settings or whatever it is. But I don't think we're that far away, to be honest. And you're already seeing it with the glasses. So yeah, why shouldn't we?
I'm here for it.
But for now, this is pretty awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Israel, for being on the show today. This was a great topic. You answered all our questions, and also we didn't have to talk to the product manager. We could just talk right to you.
Thanks, guys. I really enjoyed it. Glad we got a chance to talk. I hope we can continue this conversation in the future. You guys have some great ideas. You're obviously real tech savvy, so I'd love to chat again. Really enjoyed it.
If you're ever in Phoenix, look us up.
Yeah.
We'll do that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Israel.
Awesome.